Can you see the beautiful people?
Oh, they are beautiful.
Say hi, Griff.
Hey,
Everybody
lovely
say
people.
hi, Griff. All right, I'm going to walk up and introduce you, okay?
Okay.
So I'm going to have to hang up by this machine and tell you the questions.
Yeah, that
so it's
sounds
going to be
great.
a little wonky.
Yeah.
All right, hold on. Wow. Okay. Wow.
Am I on the screen up here?
Yeah, you're totally on.
Oh, excellent. Okay, well, he's going to introduce me.
Hold on.
Oh, wait.
So do yourself a favor and check out your audio visual week in advance. Anyway, so it'll be a little clunky, but it'll make it work. So I think the DAO is like the most fascinating, interesting thing in like ever. And they thought they were going to raise a few $1 million for Slock.it. I think it's 168 million. Last time I checked, they're just pushing the edge of governance and technology and smart contracts. So Griff is the community guy, comms guy for Slock.it and DAO. Now I'm gonna have you present. And what I want to do is have like a Q&A, right? So you'll have to tell me the question. I'll repeat it to you because I got to stand up by that machine, right? Who doesn't watch this? Right. So we'll make this work. He's going to give a brief presentation, and then we're just going to open it up to questions. Okay? Everybody good with that? All right. I'm going to go tell him what's going on.
Hey.
Hey. All right. Happy guy. All right. So all right. So why don't you go ahead, and then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to I'll be coming over here and give you the questions when they pop up. All right.
Okay. Can you mute yourself when you're not talking, because the background noise is kind of disturbing?
Right, sure. I will do that soon.
It's just up at the top. You can kind of scroll around. But anyway, I'll start giving it my presentation because so I guess I kind of want to know. I can't really see the screen, see the crowd anymore, but I want to know where people are at. Like, have you never heard of Bitcoin before? I guess raise your hands if you've heard of Bitcoin. And okay, now raise your hands if you think you know a decent amount about Ethereum. How many we got? What's the percentage? You're muted.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay. Yeah. So about pretty much 100% Bitcoin. I'd say 80%, 90% Ethereum.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so how many people know a fair amount about the DAO and a DAO? What a DAO is?
Looks like half.
Okay, that sounds about like a good place to start. So I'll just run into a spiel. I'm going to assume you guys know a fair amount about Ethereum and smart contracts, and I'm just going to dive into what a DAO is. Not the DAO, but any DAO. So a DAO is just computer code. It doesn't have to be so complicated. You know, all it is computer code that incentivizes human action. So the first DAO is actually Bitcoin. Bitcoin is classically known as the first DAO that ever existed. And it's a fairly simple DAO. All it is computer code that incentivizes miners to mine Bitcoins. And it does that fantastically. There are lots of miners working on that. In fact, it did such a good job that it pushed the processing power of humanity forward leaps and bounds, right? So it's pretty incredible. So DAOs are really powerful. The DAOs over time have gotten a lot more complicated. I would say that the pinnacle of the DAO that Bitcoin, the type of DAO of Bitcoin, probably came around with Dash. Dash does an amazing job. They really work towards what the DAO framework that Slock.it has built. They have probably got the closest, where they have what they call a digital governance by the blockchain. So they did a hard fork a while ago where they actually decided to send 10% of the mining rewards to a group, to another account that is controlled by their master nodes. So quick background, Dash has general miners, and then they have a kind of a stake minership that is called the master nodes. So the master nodes can vote to use the 10% of the mining rewards to fund different projects. So they actually paid Amanda B. Johnson of the Daily Decrypt to advertise for them. So the digital currency, the DAO of Dash, was able to pay an advertiser to perform a service for them. And that's where we're headed. That's what the DAO and all the DAOs using Slock.it's DAO framework are really geared towards. It's okay. So maybe I'll take a break from DAOs for a second and just talk about Slock.it. So Slock.it is a German company. We are not a DAO. We are just a normal vanilla company. But we are all about open source smart contracts on the Ethereum blockchain and IoT. That our goal is to build a universal sharing network. Something to really bring about an access-based economy. That's kind of where Slock.it's coming in. And our goal is to decentralize the sharing economy. And we decided back in October, even maybe whatever month is before October, September, that they really wanted to have a DAO at the top of the. You just can't decentralize the sharing economy with a company. It's just not really possible. So we've been working really hard since December to create a framework for a type of DAO that could facilitate our universal sharing network. We made a choice to not create a Slock.it DAO. We could have easily just said, hey, we're going to make Slock.it DAO, and you can go buy Slock.it tokens, and then you're going to instantly be funding the universal sharing network. We definitely considered that, but we thought it would be better. It would be better for everyone, including us, although we may have been wrong, that to allow the DAO to be completely independent, to create a totally autonomous entity out of a DAO. So what we did is we created a framework that anyone can use to create DAOs. Right now, if you wanted to create, the DC Ethereum DAO, you literally copy and paste maybe twice, and for $1.50, you'd be able to create a DAO on the Ethereum blockchain using our wikis and some videos that anyone could participate in. And yeah, so it's really actually easy. I'm not really that much of an expert as far as coding and all that stuff goes. I'm just a talker. So but I've deployed 100 DAOs. It's really, yeah, exactly, right. So it's really not that hard. And so that's what happened. This DAO Hub group deployed a DAO that was specifically that we helped them deploy, so it had the curators that we have, and it had the setup for all the rules. We just helped make sure everything was right because it was the first time anyone else was doing it. And then the DAO was created, and it just started its creation phase, and people were sending it money. And most of the people at the beginning were probably expecting, oh, this is kind of like for Slock.it and the Universal Sharing Network. This is exciting. But eventually the idea started catching on during the creation phase, and it became way bigger than Slock.it, which is great. That was our goal the whole time. We don't want Slock.it DAO. We want a DAO to hold us accountable. We want a DAO to pressure us and oversee us so that we can create the best universal sharing network possible. And on top of that, we want other people to feel like they can come in independently and create synergies with us. So, but I'll get into a lot of that stuff later. So to go back to what a DAO is simply computer code that allows people with funds to connect directly to people who have the plan and the time to make a change in the world, right? So if these people with money want to make a change, they can say, hey, let's create, end world hunger DAO. That's kind of my favorite example. And then they can send money to this DAO that will fund projects to end world hunger or whatever their stated purpose is. And so some guy in Kenya can say, hey, give me $3,000 and I will create a food bank in Kenya. And the really cool part about the DAOs and how this DAO framework works is the money doesn't go to that guy in Kenya. It goes to another smart contract. And that will slowly divvy out the money accordingly as they agreed upon, as the DAO token holders and the guy in Kenya agreed upon. And so if they don't like the guy in Kenya, if he's not doing a good job with his food bank, they can actually fire him and take back the money. And that's the same with Slock.it, of course. If we say, hey, give us a bunch of money to build a universal sharing network, and then you see us hanging out in Thailand, you know, sipping Mai Tais and not really doing anything, you can fire us. We are constantly incentivized to perform the duty that we said we were doing, and the DAO can oversee us. It definitely can't micromanage because the governance structure isn't there yet, but it can macromanage, and it has authority and power. So that's kind of my rant on what a DAO is and how Slock.it's kind of involved. I'm sure there's a lot of questions, and really, I just like Q&A way better. So why don't we just dive in? Does anyone have any questions? Oh, and you're still muted.
I'm sure there are a lot of questions. I think the best way is to have people come up and ask.
Oh, that's great. That would be awesome. Yeah.
So we have Matt McKibben, who you know.
I
Hey,
know
Griff.
Matt.
Yeah,
Hey, what's up, Matt?
we interviewed on PAX earlier. So
Yeah.
I want to know, what is the proposal process like to get funding on the DAO?
Well, that's a great question. So we are currently, okay, so the DAO's code is great. It's perfect. Okay, it's not perfect. It can always be improved. But the real work right now is the social code that we're still building. We didn't really think about this. You know, we're great at smart contracts, but as far as the actual culture around the DAO, that's still kind of forming. We had an idea that it was like, hey, come onto the DAO Hub forums. We made a blog post like a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, actually before the creation phase ended. We made a blog post that gave a recommendation on how someone who wanted to get funding from the DAO could set up their proposal. Basically, you go to DAO Hub forums, you put out your identity, you verify that you have these codes, you go on, you make a Google Hangout just like this, and the community kind of grills you. It's like, okay, are you really who you say you are? And then you verify that you own the keys for the multi-sig that for the smart contract that you're going to end up funding, you know, or whoever gets the payments from the smart contract. And then once you've verified those, you also need to send in your Solidity code and show that the code that you created for your smart contract matches the bytecode, which is just a bunch of random numbers that gets sent to the actual Ethereum network. So that has to be verified, and then so the community is going to write a report of all the people that submitted those proposals and send them to the curators. And the curators will, if they believe that the code is safe and or whatever the curators think, then they will add you to the whitelist. For anyone to receive money from the DAO, the curators have to add them to the whitelist. So that was our plan, but the curators are who knows? We're not really sure. So we're still working with the curators to actually verify what they want to do and how they want the process to go. And in fact, there's so much movement going on. I mean, the fact of the matter is, the curators are incredible. It's like Vitalik Buterin, and you know, basically anyone whose name you know in Ethereum, they're a curator for the DAO. But guess what? Those guys have really important projects. You know, the two most active curators so far are Vlad and Alex Van de Sande. Alex Van de Sande needs to keep working on Mist. I mean, we're really excited for Mist to come out, and it's really important for Ethereum. And Vlad is working on Casper and Proof of Stake. That's also really important. These guys should not. I don't think they have the time to do what, you know, the job that the curator requires. If they do, that's awesome, and we definitely don't want to lose them as curators. But there's some exciting news that happened today. 2 new curators were added that are just community members, more normal people. One of them is the mod of a bunch of Ethereum Reddits, and of course has a lot of other things going for him. Another person is a very active member of the Berlin Meetup. So the curators added them to the multi-sig. So now it's actually, and they kicked off Gavin Wood. So now it's actually it's a 5 of 12 multi-sig. And so things are changing, things are moving, and the exact process, well, we'll see. But right now, we're working on a proposal framework that will address some of the concerns that Vlad, one of the curators, Vlad, wrote a paper that had some concerns about how the governance is structured in the DAO and whether or not it has the ability to actually come to a conclusion on whether or not our proposal is safe and good. So I think that it was fine, but we're in an awkward position where we're a contractor and we happen to be the experts on the DAO's code. So we're just going to do whatever the curators want. In the end, I think everyone's on the same team and we all want the best for the DAO. So we've been creating a proposal framework with the curator's advice and people from the community. It's all on GitHub, of course. And once that's solidified, which I think will be tomorrow, maybe the next day, it'll be a lot easier for people to come out and get money from the DAO. Sorry, it was a long answer, but it was very needed, and I'll probably link to this in Reddit descriptions. Okay, so I see some notes. Am I supposed to just read this?
So yeah, the next question, what is, so can you talk, wait, hold on. What is the proposal process? You got that one?
Did that one.
So then can you talk about the legal status of DAOs, what you have planned for DAO Link, and challenges for DAOs to interface with traditional legal entities in the real world?
Yeah.
And,
Okay, so yeah, that's a great question. Of course, I am not a lawyer. I don't know anything about the legal stuff behind DAOs, but I do know that the first DAO, Bitcoin, has blazed a lot of trails and has shown potentially how other governments and things might interact with the DAO, and it's kind of a crapshoot. You know, the DAO is a blockchain-based entity, so it doesn't live in anyone's jurisdiction. It is totally open and every jurisdiction is going to deal with it on their own. And how they do that, man, we will see. It's going to be exciting to see. But if Bitcoin's any example, I think it'll be pretty easy. In the end, DAOs are just a new tool for people to use, and it is just computer code. It's kind of hard to legislate against computer code. So people, of course, will probably need to follow the laws in their own jurisdiction and, you know, pay their taxes and do all those things that normal people are supposed to do. Companies are going to have to do the same. We as Slock.it, we joined forces with another company called Bitty. They're an exchange in Switzerland, in Switzerland, they have a lot easier laws about how receiving funds from non-traditional companies can be done. So DAO Link is the company, and they will help people with DAOs. I mean, the exact structure of DAO Link, I don't really know. I work for Slock.it. I'm not that interested in the legal stuff, to be honest. That's just not my shtick, you know. I'm all about access-based economy and universal sharing network. So I don't really know exactly how DAO Link's going to go. I know how we're going to use it, and that's basically the DAO Link is going to accept money from the DAO, and then we're going to tell Germany that we're getting money from DAO Link, and they're contracting with us so that we can use their tax ID number.
Great, thank you. The next question is for me, actually, and I was just curious what the best resource is for finding answers to these types of questions online.
Sure.
Go
ahead.
I'm not a technical person. I just have a very curious interest. I think this is the future. And so I didn't know if you had a couple of websites I could read or follow to understand.
There's stuff on the Ethereum Meetup site.
Yeah, and the best place is the Slack. 100% hands down. If you haven't been on a Slack yet, then you're not in Ethereum, because every Ethereum project has their own Slack, and you just can't avoid it. Slack seems to be taking off. I mean, Slock.it's cool. I want to invest in Slack. They're killing it right now. So the DAO has its own Slack. It was actually originally the Slock.it Slack, but you know, we're not nearly as important as the DAO anymore. So they took over, and it is hands down the best place to start. If you want specific information, you can go to DAO Hub. Let's see, forums.daohub.org. I can type it in here. Why not? Forums.daohub.org. slock.org. And that's a great place to speak in more of like a forum space. And the other place for information is our blog, so blog.slock.it, or blog.slock.it. That's it, blog.slock.it. That's a great place for random information to come flying your way. Okay, what's next?
So the next question is from Tom Goldstein of Cogent Law Group. Are votes made by majority of the token holders?
Yeah. So votes. If a proposal to get passed, it has to have two things. Well, at least in the current setup. We'll see how it goes. But right now it has to reach 20% quorum. So 20% of the tokens that exist in the DAO have to be cast as a vote somehow for either yes or no. So it needs to reach 20% quorum, and it has to have majority voting in agreement. So it needs both.
Okay. And the next one was, do the curators make decisions by consensus or majority vote?
So the question is, do the curators make decisions by consensus or majority vote? Or
The curators are a loosely formed organization, and exactly how they want to do it is up to them. They're an independent body, but they have a multi-sig that is 5 of 12, and if any 5 of them agree to anything, then it will happen. So if 5 of them agree to add somebody to their multi-sig, then now it's a 5 of 13 multi-sig. If 5 of them agree to change the multi-sig to 7 of 13, then that's what it'll be. If 5 of them agree to add a proposal to the whitelist, then that will happen.
Okay. Blockchain Susan had a question, which was, how do you ensure that 1 or 2 entities do not have majority shares in the DAO and end up controlling which proposals get accepted?
Well, the DAO has curators for that, so no one can actually put up a proposal unless the curators agree that it's not a security threat to the DAO. So the curator's job is mostly because of this exact threat. The only reason there's curators is because of the worry about a 51% attack. And so the curator's job is to check the bytecode to make sure that the code actually matches the proposal that is being requested, right? So that anyone can read Solidity code. Solidity code is incredibly easy to read. It's the only language I know. So besides English and maybe a little Spanish and Solidity, that's what I got. So it's incredibly easy to read, and anyone can look at it and kind of figure out what's going on, especially if they have a coding background. So their job is to make sure that what they said publicly matches what they are doing on the blockchain, and to verify identities, so that if there is a problem, these people are risking their reputation. So if someone's like, hey, send me $1 million and I promise I'll do something, and if they're like some really trustworthy person, maybe the DAO would agree to that. If it's Mark Karpelis or somebody like that, obviously they're not going to get their proposal passed. But the curators are there to verify identities. So I don't think that there will ever be. I actually think the DAO was created in a very decentralized fashion, so that there, when you look at all the other Bitcoin type DAOs, all the other cryptocurrencies, they're pretty centralized. There is more of a threat to get a 51% attack in as far as token holdings for Bitcoin than there is like in other things, or Ethereum as well. But that's why they use decentralized mining. For us, I really think that we did a pretty good job at keeping it decentralized. We don't really know who holds how much, but I think 50% is like 100 of the top addresses or something like that. I don't know the exact details. There's some great blog posts on it. But yeah, and then so that's one way, is the curators blocking it. But the other way that we can prevent 51% attacks is basically because as a DAO token holder, you hold your token, you hold the, you have control of your funds at all times. So all the DAO tokens are effectively backed by Ether. And if at any time you think there's a threat in the DAO or the DAO is going to have problems, you can split the DAO, take your Ether out, and you can run away. So there's kind of different ways that you can protect yourself and that the DAO is protected from these attacks. I hope that was kind of a rant, but hope that answered your questions.
I think so. I know we have a couple more questions.
Bring it on. This is great.
Okay, were you number 7?
Yeah.
Okay, the concern is 41% of the tokens are owned by 2 people. How does that work?
I don't know that. I don't think so. That would be great. I wish, man. Can you introduce me? Can I get on the phone call? Vote for the USN. But no, I don't think so.
No, it's not owned by 2 people.
No, I think the highest address that holds any tokens is like 2% or 3%.
Yeah, let's go next.
Okay, so next question, how can you incentivize people to actually vote? Voting, yes, costs temporary Ether, but not voting counts same as voting no.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's talk about voting. I understand the question. So
I don't.
how do you incentivize people to vote when there are actually a lot of disincentives to vote? In fact, one of the biggest, so there's 2 things I want to talk about here. There's in Vlad's paper, in the paper that Vlad wrote with Dino and Goon, they, who are great guys, and we're really happy to have them, to work with them to improve the DAO. By the way, let me just say, there's a lot of discussion that it's really easy to get into these internet fire battles about, oh, you're wrong or who's wrong, and really it hasn't been productive. So people have been questioning the validity of the DAO's governance structure and different attack vectors, and we haven't really been responding too much because we've been taking all their advice under consideration and speaking with them in private, because we think that's probably the better way to handle these kinds of things. On the internet, things just get a little feisty. So we've been working on solutions to solve. Hey, Daryl. We've been working on solutions to all their problems, and one of their problems that they claim is the yes bias. So the yes bias is basically saying that there's no incentive. It's better to not vote than to vote no, because if you vote no, you're helping the proposal reach quorum, and you're locking up your tokens so you can't trade them, and you're stopping yourself from splits. So why would anyone vote no, right? And so there's this proposed yes bias. The yes bias is there. If you assume that the proposal will not reach quorum, then there's a decent yes bias. I actually think that's overshadowed by the bias of not voting at all. I would call it tragedy of the commons bias. If you think the proposal is going to pass, why would you vote? Why would you bother? Other people will do it for you. It's not important. If you don't think the proposal is passed, why would you vote? Other people will solve it for you. It's kind of this tragedy of the commons idea. And the real incentive to vote is on the contractor that is creating the proposal. The DAO doesn't need to incentivize anything. It's the contractor's job. If the contractor wants to get money from somebody, from a DAO token holder, they better get the DAO token holders to rock the vote. They got to get them out there. They got to get them to the polls. Otherwise, they're not going to get any money. So that's where the incentive lies. It's all on the contractor. So if you don't have much of a public face and you just have a great idea, you're probably going to have problems getting money from the DAO. You're going to need to team up with somebody who can help you get out and talk to the DAO token holders. Okay, sorry. A very roundabout way to your answer, but I hope that got your question.
There's one more. So Daryl Dwayne has a question. You mentioned that the curators are there in part to confirm / check identity of the recipients. Are you aware of any effort to use the blockchain to help with identity?
I am not aware of, well, okay. I have heard some things of some people's projects trying to create identity structures, web of trust, and different stuff like that. I'm not really that well versed on those projects. What we do is basically really simple. You get we've been verifying keys all over the place. All the curators had to send a picture of them holding their key up, and saying like, "This is my key, me and my key," and that's what all the contractors have to do too. It's pretty, archaic, you could say. I mean, even though it's using Google Hangouts, which is pretty cool, but it's pretty simple. I wouldn't say that there's we're just trying to, I'm an engineer. I'm not like an academic like researcher guy. I just want it to work. So to me, this is great. Hey, yeah, show me that you have the key. I'll believe it. Send a picture. That works for me. And then now, there's a picture of them on the internet with their key. They will always be held as that is their key. Everyone knows they have that private key. So, but I'm sure that I'm really excited about there being some identity structures. We kind of need it for the universal sharing network. We're going to need reputation systems and other things like that to really make the universal sharing network work. So connecting them with keys. Oh, there is another project that's pretty cool. Is the DAOhub.org guys, the people who actually hosted the DAO Hub website and eventually are going to create a proposal. They are eventually going to create a proposal to, and I've seen their website. It's coming together. They're still testing it to create a forum that you have to sign a message with your DAO token, with your DAO tokens to actually register as a forum. So you have to prove that you are a DAO token holder to even get on the forum, and the exact details. Well, you're going to be able to tell how many tokens someone has at the current moment and stuff like that. We're not 100% sure on. I think that's how they're going to do it. But we'll see what they come up with. But that is in the works.
Cool.
Yep.
So next question is, what's the latest from Slock?
From Slock.it.
Going on? Yeah.
What's the latest? We're working on a proposal framework. We're working with the curators. We're not sleeping very much. We're stressed out and trying to make sure everything comes together. But it's a lot of fun. We're doing a lot of work to behind the scenes just to make sure, doing a lot of testing. I mean, Lefter is just constantly testing. I don't think people understand how much testing these smart contracts really need to make sure there's no attack vectors. There's game theoretical analysis on top of just constant tests to make sure that the DAO, which has all of these functions, can't somehow mess up the smart contract and make it do something it doesn't want to do. So there's a lot of that kind of work. And yeah, and I'm in London. I'm going to go to Berlin soon. We're going to have a meeting with some other companies that want to work with us, and we're trying to, we're kind of in a lull, even though we're working really hard to get this thing out. Until we want to start, we just want to start working on the universal sharing network, and until we can get our proposal out there, we're just kind of looking at other things, looking into maybe getting an office in Germany, stuff like that. So admin stuff, hiring some people, just general company stuff. Nothing really cool. Not until we can get our proposals out there.
So I guess that ties into the next question about what's your vision for looking ahead?
Oh, man. Well, that's an interesting idea. What's Slock.it's vision? Well, I mean, do you guys want me to give my spiel on the Universal Sharing Network? Because that's my favorite thing to talk about. What do you think?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. So this might be, aren't any other questions, so I'm just going to go off for a little bit. I hope you guys are okay. So the Slock.it's real passion and what we're doing all this work for is to build a universal sharing network. So we have 3 steps to do that, right? First, we need a DAO to run it and to fund it. So the DAO is going to be able to manage the network. Every network is going to need a little bit of management. Not much, but it's going to kind of be at the helm of the network. So that's step 1. Success! We did it. Well, at least if it accepts our proposal. Step 2 is the Ethereum computer. So we actually made the Ethereum computer in October. We had working prototypes, and we even did a live presentation at DevCon 1 where we made some tea on stage using the blockchain to send a payment to a tea kettle where it, that was connected to the Ethereum computer. So what the Ethereum computer does is it connects any smart object to the Ethereum blockchain. So it's kind of like, those smart locks that you can buy on Amazon. You just connect it to your door, and then you can open it with your phone. So you can make a lock turn on and off with your phone. Well, we're kicking that up a notch. So instead of it being connected to your phone, it's going to be connected to the Ethereum computer, which is kind of like a hub. So when you can create a smart contract using the Ethereum computer and the software that's going to go along with it, you can create a smart contract that basically represents your lock. And when money is sent to that smart contract, the Ethereum computer hears that, and feels that, right? And then opens the lock. Or actually what it does is it gives permission to the person who controls that account to open and close the lock for however long they want, right? That's kind of the simple way that what the Ethereum computer does. It creates smart contracts that are attached to real-world objects that can be interacted with on the blockchain. So that's step 2. So connecting real-world objects to the Ethereum network to be controlled by smart contracts. That's what the Ethereum computer does, as well as a bunch of other cool things that, it's the Ethereum computer. So you can run a live, it's really easy to kick up Geth and have a developer's environment. And there's a lot. Check our proposal when it comes out. There's the proposal overview, but the proposal is getting a lot better. So you can check that out and read more about the Ethereum computer. But what that enables is a network of connected devices on the Ethereum network. So that is basically the universal sharing network. And anybody who uses the Ethereum computer and connects it to the universal sharing network will end up having to pay the DAO a small fee. And that fee is actually controlled by the DAO. And that is how the DAO can manage the network. So, so we're going to build this universal sharing network, and it's going to enable local and global interconnectivity, allowing permissionless access driven by smart contracts. That's kind of like the spiel, right? So anyone can access, the goal is that anyone, anywhere can access anything from their phone. So, okay, the best way to actually think about this is the 4 different people that will interact with the network. So first there's the end user, the guy who wants some stuff, the consumer, right? So they can go on their phone and they have access to almost any object or service without having to ask permission from anyone or coordinate with anybody, right? Kind of like Amazon. You can just go on and have stuff delivered to your door, except it's now and it's local or global, whatever you want. So you can go on your phone and you say, oh, hey, man, I really need a staple gun right now. So you go on your phone and you look at what staple guns are out there and convenient for you. You reserve it, and boom, you now have that staple gun, and you can go pick it up as you wish. That staple gun is going to be attached to a smart contract, probably just be in a locker with a smart lock. You can go buy a smart lock by Noke. It's like a little padlock. I should really get one so I can be like, hey. But you can just it'll be able to be opened and closed by that user, the person who owns the account that sent money to the smart contract, and then they will be able to use the staple gun as much as they want. Let's say that they love the staple gun and they never want to give it back. That's fine, because they had to put down a deposit to actually get the staple gun. If they don't need a staple gun and they don't feel like storing it, they can put it back in the locker, close it up, and say, I'm done with it. And then, boom, now they just had to pay maybe $1 an hour to use their staple gun. And then they don't have to store a staple gun for whatever. So as far as the user is concerned, they used their phone, they walked up to a locker, took what they wanted, and ran. There's no third party, and there's not even really a second party. They just have access to anything they want, as long as an entrepreneur is ready to put it out there. So that's the second party. The second person who's using this network is the entrepreneur. So anybody who has a storage unit knows that stuff is ridiculously expensive. It's like a $30 billion industry in the US alone, right? What if you could take some of that stuff out of your storage unit and actually put it in a locker and get residual income off it? you could be paid to store your stuff as opposed to having to pay to store your stuff. Like that just makes sense. That's a really great use case for the Universal Sharing Network. So you can use this network to advertise your goods or services to anyone or anything globally and locally. So you don't have to ask permission from anybody to put something in a locker connected to your Ethereum computer. The only thing you have to do is get an Ethereum computer, or at least have access to someone who has it, right? So like I have this dream that there's going to be these decentralized like universal sharing network hubs where someone just has a bunch of lockers and people can put their stuff in these lockers, and then anyone can go there and be like a vending machine for anything, you know? And they would have to pay somebody to enable that transaction, you know, the person who's paying rent to store all those lockers. So the Ethereum computer is going to be set up to make it really easy for entrepreneurs. Oh, one thing I forgot to say, everything Slock.it does for the DAO is completely open source, like free, and it's going to, I think we decided upon the MIT license for everything, and the Ethereum computer, especially all the hardware, all the software, it's going to be completely open for anyone to use, hack into, and create their own Ethereum computer. That's the goal, is to build a really incredible network. And the best way to do that is to allow a completely permissionless access to anybody in every way that's possible. So once you have the Ethereum computer, as an entrepreneur, you're just going to go through the wizard, and it'll automatically detect that you have a door lock and that you have like this NOC lock, and then it'll prompt you for parameters like set a deposit price, set a price per unit time, maybe put up a picture of what you're putting in the locker, maybe put up some kind of a description, or allow it to use your GPS location or whatever, and then you put the thing in the locker, and it's like an infomercial. You set it and forget it, and all of a sudden people have access to your stuff. You don't have to do anything. There's a smart contract that controls all the permissions. You just get to, walk away and receive money for people using your thing. And then, of course, if you want to take it down, you have complete control, because you're the owner of the smart contract, so you can change the permissions. You can take it down, take it up, whatever. You own your stuff still. So okay, so that's kind of the base layer. There's the entrepreneurs who are lending stuff to the end users, and if you have that, that's pretty cool. But it's not going to work out, right? I mean, what if someone steals your stuff? The classic stuff, the classic questions, and the answers, I don't know. Because it's not me, it's not Slock who has to figure this stuff out. We are going to, of course, at the beginning, enable a lot of the solutions, but the real answer is for third-party service providers. This network is a completely open economy. It is a free market economy, probably one that the world has never seen. And third-party service providers are going to have to provide a lot of services that are normally provided by other agencies. So, dispute resolution services. There's a proposal by Andreas Antonopoulos to create a decentralized autonomous, I don't even remember what it's called. Oh, it's DAM, which is really great, DAMN. So a mediation network, that's what it is. And so there's going to be, I usually call them DROs. There's going to be dispute resolution. There's going to be third-party insurance. There's going to be, my favorite example, it's like you can have so many of these big organizations and complicated things, but, for like the staple gun example, you don't really need all that. You have a deposit, it's not a big deal. But if you're really worried about it, what about just asking your neighbor who's down the street, who likes to sit on his deck and watch the neighborhood and make sure nothing changes? He's just sitting there, he's just hanging out, he's always making sure, the neighborhood watch is going on. Well, he could get paid to just check to make sure your staple gun, isn't broken when the guy returns it. And that could all be, organized on the blockchain. He could have a special permission where he has to click a button, and then they get their deposit back after he checks it. And so all of these, it doesn't have to be, it could be a crazy reputation system set up by eBay where they already have their reputation set and they link it to a blockchain identity, and then you can link your eBay account to that, and then you have that reputation on top of other things. Like, a third-party service providers could be global organizations, or it could just be a neighbor who's helping out. It is totally open and up to the people, the entrepreneurs, to decide who they want to work with, and also the end users. So that's kind of the third-party service providers. Now there's one fourth entity. I'm sorry, this is so long, guys. I warned you. Okay, there's this fourth entity, and I think it's the coolest part of the whole thing. And it's basically autonomous objects. So we had a hackathon in October before even our DevCon presentation, and the people who won it are called Slock.it. They made this really cool, kind of scary solar charger, where it's just a solar panel with a little USB port, right, and some batteries, and it charges cell phones for Ether. So you plug in, you send it some money, and then it'll give you a certain amount of juice. And no one owns it. It's a completely autonomous object. It has its own smart contract, and then as it accumulates Ether, it can actually pay people to add more batteries. You can pay people to add a solar panel, and it can measure the wattage and see, oh yeah, okay, here's how much you get, And so that autonomous object is an economic entity, and it can grow, and it can, use the universal chain network to provide service, to ask for services to be done in its name. And that's one of the really cool things. I think this is the kind of the future of autonomous objects, to use a network like this, where they can provide services, where you can have, kind of like the guy with the staple gun, he could do his thing, or maybe a neighbor could put the staple gun on a drone who flies the staple gun to you right there in the current moment, so these autonomous objects are going to have a lot of viability. Maybe there'll be like a coffee machine on the block, and when it runs low on coffee, it requires someone with a reputation level of a certain thing, and it'll pay you to get this exact brand of coffee and put it in. And then, if people complain, they can take down the person's reputation. There's going to be a lot of opportunity to kind of massage exactly how this is going to be. And of course, it's going to evolve. I mean, autonomous objects are not going to be provided by Slock.it. This is something that can be kind of the future of the universal chain network. But yeah, so those are the four entities that really do it. Kind of in summary, the universal chain network is going to have, oh my God, I always forget to mention this. And this is my favorite part of the universal chain network. I know Daryl's going to appreciate it, especially, is that it makes a true sharing economy possible. Kind of like the gift economy at Burning Man. So if you
Oh, we love Burning Man.
Yeah, Daryl and I are we camp in the same camp, and so
we kind of did too.
Yep.
oh, cool, that's awesome. I only did it last year. This year I'm going to give a bunch of presentations at the Burn and Camp Contact, so hopefully you guys will see me there. But I always forget to mention the true sharing economy aspect of this. The fact is, if you have an Ethereum computer, you can set a deposit price and then set the actual price per unit time as 0. So if you just want to share your staple gun, that's awesome, and you don't have to worry about someone stealing it or damaging it, because you put a deposit that's like 1.3 times the price of the staple gun. So if someone takes it forever, you just go buy a staple gun, maybe even a nicer staple gun than you started with, and you can even make it better. If you have ripe fruit trees that you're not going to pick, you can just put it on the universal sharing network and say, hey, I have a fruit tree here. And everyone, when they're looking for toilet paper, they'll see that there's a fruit tree right next door. And then, hey, perfect. Oh, I'll go get some pears too. Or what if you have too many puppies? Put it on the universal sharing network. That is or like, extra food after a big event. And the universal sharing network really optimizes the utilization of resources. There's a scarce resource problem. People like to talk about overpopulation and all this stuff. There's no problem with overpopulation. I've been to India. There's so much empty land out there. It's not a big deal. The real problem is the way that we treat our scarce resources. And that's what I am most excited about for the universal sharing network. So, so yeah, I'm glad I finally said that on video. I've been trying to say that on video for so long, guys. Yeah, I mean, the use cases for this thing are endless. You know, imagine a 3D printer that you can just control and print something whenever you want, a vending machine for everything, tool libraries, you know, an industrial kitchen. What if apartments just had big kitchens that you could use every time you want to use the oven? You just throw some money to it. You know, selling Wi-Fi access. I mean, sport equipment on location, waiting at a mountain for skis, you know, and like, you know, the ski rental, so annoying. What if you could just like rent it on the ride up there, and then you'd go to this locker and boom, your size and your skis are right there, done. Okay, I'll let it go. I'll stop.
We have to wind down. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, well,
Everyone's clapping for you. So I don't know if you
thanks.
So yeah, I guess that's it. Bill, do you want to come bid Griff farewell?
Okay. All right, so we got a slow start. Thank you so much. You've been awesome.
Okay.
Love your energy. What is it, like 2 in the morning?
Yeah, I don't even know. Yeah, it's 2:15. No, 1:15. No, it's not that bad. It's 1:15. I'll be in
All right,
Berlin tomorrow where it's 2:15 though.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, thank you so much. Thanks for sharing. This is great. I think what you guys are doing are awesome.
Thanks a lot, man. Thank you guys. It was really fun.
Everybody loved it. I know you can't see everybody, but they totally love you.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Hey, Griff.
Hey, what's up, man?
Is your can you guys come to conferences yet?
No. I
Not
mean,
yet?
we're just kind of waiting. Here, I'm going to keep this broadcast. Hold on.